Today we're going to talk about single brood chamber management. Traditionally, most beekeepers have kept their colonies in 2 deep brood chambers. There's a bit of a growing trend in doing single brood chamber management, single deep brood chamber management. We've done some research on this. We've been thinking about it for a while, and this year we're going to convert a lot of our colonies to single brood chamber management. Throughout this season, we'll be posting videos on our progress and the changes we've made and how to do this. But today I just wanted to talk about the why, the pros and the cons. Whether it be Cayman Reynolds or Paul Kelly from the University of Guelph in Ontario, he's done some great work and research, and most beekeepers up there in Ontario area actually keep bees in single brood chambers colonies, which is interesting because a lot of people think that it's not doable in a cold climate. They say, well, that's something you can do if you're in a warm climate, but they are proving that otherwise. What are some pros and cons? Well, first, this colony is coming out of winter in a double deep. I have an excluder and then a super on there already, but this is a double deep we went through winter in. So what are the advantages of just using a single deep? Well, first, there's less equipment needed. You don't need 2 deeps for every colony and twice as many frames. You can cut down on the equipment a little bit. If you already have the equipment, you can use those for splits or for swarm traps. You know, you're not going to put that equipment to waste, but if you're just starting your colonies, you'd actually save on getting that in the first place. Another advantage is your colonies are easier to move. A double deep like this is quite heavy. A single deep, one person could lift and move if need be, whereas the double deep you definitely need assistance. One of the big advantages is that you know where your brood chamber is. You know where your queen is going to be. So this makes finding your queen much easier. Not only twice as easy, you would think, oh, it's just twice as easy because you're in one brood chamber. Paul Kelly says that he thinks it's as much as 4 times easier. And one of the reasons is not only do you have half the number of boxes to look through, half the number of frames, and you can't go between them while you're checking one. The other difference is you have more confidence. You know in those 10 frames, your queen is there. Sometimes we can think it's a fruitless effort to look for the queen. She's got 20 frames, she could be moving while you're inspecting, but when you know she's down in there somewhere, you know where she is, so you have a lot more confidence and it's a lot easier to find her. That additionally makes colony inspections faster because you're only inspecting the queen for queen cells, for brood, larvae, eggs, any disease issues. You're checking all that in just one box down here. So it makes your work a lot more concentrated and much faster. Additionally, a lot of mite treatments, you have to increase the dose if you have 2 chambers. Your dosage might be more spread out. So you can concentrate your treatments and maybe even use less, according to the directions, having all your brood in one box. Now, the big argument is that many people make is there's not enough space for the queen. They'll swarm, there's not enough space for the queen. Mathematically, Paul Kelly at the last bee conference I was at with him ran through the math on this. A deep box has over 70,000 cells, and the queen, if you do the math, she can lay about 1,500 eggs a day, and those eggs will hatch out and emerge in 21 days. So if she's going non-stop, the largest number of cells she would need to lay in is just over 31,000, about 31,500. So less than half of the total cells available. So mathematically, she has plenty of room in that deep box. There are some management changes, of course. Before we get into those, some of the cons, these are the things you have to change. You have to super earlier to avoid that swarming instinct, above an excluder, of course. You will have less total frames if you make a lot of splits. Right now, I could pull frames from both of these. I have a lot of unused frames I could put into splits. You won't have as much equipment, which was a pro because you save cost, but it could be a con if you're using that equipment regularly to make splits. And the biggest change, especially for me, because I tend to not like to feed my bees, of course, if they need it and they're starving, but as a practice, I've always let my bees collect their own nectar. I leave enough honey on there so that I don't have to feed. But with this management, because you have all your brood in the bottom chamber, you pull all the honey on top in the fall. You can do a summer harvest and you leave honey then, but in the fall, you want to overwinter these in single deep boxes. You pull all the honey. And because this was so full of brood, while that brood nest shrinks going into the winter, they need to fill it, and that's where you need to feed in the fall. We'll get into that more. They could fill that up with goldenrod honey. However, that's not the best honey to overwinter on. For now, this colony, we will look for the queen, and if we can't find her, we'll put the extra excluder between there, so this colony will be ready to start single brood chamber management. We're excited to try this new management style, and we will be updating you throughout the summer on how it's going and the steps to take.